Gospel reading for today, Friday, the 14th of August. Then Jesus told his disciples, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit them if they gain the whole world but forfeit their life? Or what will they give in return for their life? For the Son of Man is to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay everyone for what has been done. Truly, I tell you, there are some standing here who will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." I read an article this week that on the one hand made me want to chuckle, and on the other hand made me want to cry. The article was reporting upon some survey results where people were asked to estimate how many people in their countries had died from coronavirus. Now, I don't know how big the sample sizes were, what the methodology used was to select those who were interviewed, nor the exact questions that they were asked. In short, the statistics might or might not be meaningful. But the headline results were surprising. You see, in this survey, the British people that were asked thought that 6% of the British population had died as a result of the virus. 6% of our population would be 4 million people. The actual number of fatalities, according to the government, is nearer to 47,000. The scale of error here is really quite shocking. And to put it into perspective, in the entirety of the Second World War, 446 British people died. And of course, for each and every one of those, just as for each and every one of those people who have died over the past few months, there are now people grieving the loss of their loved one. For each and every one of us is unique and special. Each and every one of us is unique in the eyes of God and of those who love us. Every death is a tragedy, and I do not in any way mean to put that aside. But those interviewed, perhaps stymied by a poor grasp of percentages, genuinely believed that nearly 10 times as many Brits have succumbed to coronavirus than had died during the Second World War. And when they were gently challenged on this, they responded by confidently assuring their interviewers that this showed just how dangerous this virus was, somewhat missing the point entirely. The media and government output for the past 6 months has predominantly been focused on coronavirus and our response to it. Our response has changed the nature of how we gather in community, what we do, and whom we do it with. Nothing has been left untouched, so it's little wonder that we need to put some work now into maintaining perspective. Life is indeed fragile. It was in part the point that Paul was making in our epistle today that you heard with Reverend Sam. That we are as clay jars, inherently fragile and easily broken. Life is precious and rarely comfortable. To use his words, we may be afflicted in every way. But he was making a much bigger observation, and one that we can derive hope and confidence from today. For he is making the point that even the most fragile vessel can serve to carry the most precious of materials. And that most precious of materials is the life of Jesus, and the dirt and muckiness of the clay pot that carries it does not detract from the power, the beauty, or the value of the contents. And it strikes me that to deny ourselves the opportunities of meeting in community, we can currently deny ourselves the chances to catch a glimpse, just the faintest glimpse of the divine in one another. And whilst prudence and safety are relevant, important, and pertinent, I wonder how we measure the true costs of our response. Has our medicine proven more expensive and more dangerous than the disease it is meant to have cured? And in today's Gospel reading, Jesus instructs his disciples to take up their cross and follow him, a powerful image underlining the nature of self-sacrifice that being a Christian requires. But that when combined with Paul's imagery, the breaking of our dirty clay pots, it can be seen that it is a release of the valuable contents, the life of Jesus being made visible in our mortal flesh. And in short, we're supposed to be willing to give it all up. It strikes me that in all of the discussion and debate about coronavirus, not much has been spoken of how, as Christians, we should not fear death. We are not supposed to be afraid of dying. recognizing it as merely the next step in our journeys of faith with Jesus. We are supposed to recognize the breaking of our dirty clay pots as the means by which we can be released to most fully conjoin with our Creator and our Sustainer. And yet, of course, it is quite natural to hold some reservation about dying. Life is for the living, we're told. And when we have our fears and concerns amplified by a media focus, which leads people to genuinely believe that a disease is 100 times more prevalent and deadlier than it actually is, I confess that it is very difficult to keep things in a balanced perspective. Perhaps, therefore, it would be helpful for us to remember the example of Maximilian Kolbe, whose life we commemorate today, to illustrate how we should view this risk of death. Father Kolbe was a priest and monk captured by the Germans in Poland during the Second World War and was imprisoned at Auschwitz. He begged to be substituted for another man, a man who was a husband and a parent, in selection for execution. The camp commandant obliged, and when Kolbe stubbornly refused to die by starvation quickly enough, he ended up being executed by more rapid means. Thankfully, it is unlikely that any of us will ever be presented by such a choice. But we are always being given the choice each and every moment as to choose how we shall live today. In choosing how to do so, we might do well to remember the example of so many of the saints, Maximilian Kolbe included, who demonstrate that if we hold true to our faith, we should not cling too closely to life in this world, and behave accordingly. God be with you.